Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, Colombia has declared a national state of disaster following the deadly earthquake this week. Many parts of China remain on alert for heavy rainfall as the remnants of Typhoon Dolphin head inland. Iran says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. meets Tehran's demands. In business, China's auto exports surpassed 1 million for a second straight month. In sports, a preview of the UEFA Super Cup in Austria. In culture and entertainment, international youth exchanges in Hainan province. Now checking the day's top stories. The Colombian government's declared a state of national disaster as search and rescue efforts continue following a deadly earthquake. The quake has so far killed more than 230 people as of early Wednesday. Michelle Begay has more.
We had arrived here at about midnight. We had seen citizens who had been doing their best to try to help remove rubble and find people. There has been a lot of rescue operations across different parts of Colombia. Let's take a look at what some of those rescue workers who have been working tirelessly have said.
It's very tough. There are so many people who need help, lots of children and elderly adults. What we're asking for right now is, please, clothing for babies, little girls, and girls up to 12 years old. We need a lot of clothing for those age groups, please. Non-perishable food and water as well.
Professionals are coming in with all of their equipment to be able to try to hear any sign of life. And so officials have asked us to move back a little bit, but this is what we're seeing constantly. Every hour counts, especially in the next hours, because as time goes by, obviously, there is the possibility that people may lose their lives. The government has set up tents in certain places to do census, to make sure that people are accounted for and families know maybe where missing are, because communication is very bad right now in Colombia because of the power lines that are down, electricity. This is a constant all around Colombia. So families are trying to reach out to their family members and their loved ones and see where they are.
Back here at the end, my aunt used to live. She lived alone, and unfortunately, she's still under the rubble. We haven't been able to get her out because in the back there's a gas leak. So right now we're waiting for machinery so we can get her out of there. But for now, we're just waiting. All we can do is wait. There's nothing else we can do.
Because the damage is evident. Although I insist, there is a survival triangle there. The debris surrounding my brother is soft. It's possible that it's protecting him, but we can't hear any noises anymore. I don't know. I have little hope.
Next step, once they know that everyone is fine, is trying to find out where they're going to sleep, if their house is affected, if a building is suffering from infrastructure or damages. Can they get their things out? That was something that we saw.
That was Michelle Begay reporting. A UN deputy spokesperson says the world body is working with the Colombian government to support relief efforts in response to the deadly quake. Farhan Haq adds that Secretary General Antonio Guterres is saddened by the human losses in the disaster.
The Secretary General expresses his solidarity with the people and government of Colombia and extends his condolences to the families of the victims and wishes for a speedy recovery to all those affected, as reports emerge of collapsed homes and other significant damage, and as the authorities work to assess the full impact. The United Nations is in close contact with the Colombian authorities and is supporting the government-led response as requested.
Fu Song is China's permanent representative to the UN, and he also expressed sympathies to the victims of the earthquake.
China sends its profound condolences over the victims of the severe earthquake in Colombia. We extend our sincere sympathies to the families of the victims and to those who have been injured. We trust that under the leadership of the Colombian government, the people of Colombia will unite as one. Together, they will recover from the disaster soon and rebuild their homeland.
Well, the earthquake has caused damage on at least 24 health facilities in Colombia, putting further stress on relief operations. WHO spokesperson Tariq Irasevich says the top priority is to ensure accessible health care.
Damage to water systems has also affected health facilities, creating additional operational challenges. Now, public health concerns that we have is really first to ensure continuity of essential health services, and that is a priority.
Well, the UN World Food Program says it has around 4,500 tons of food supplies in Colombia already, and it adds it can allocate more food through its regional and global supply networks. Meantime, Mexico is also preparing to send military personnel, rescue specialists, doctors, and emergency supplies to Colombia. Peru sent more than 12 metric tons of humanitarian aid to Colombia for families affected by the quake. Peruvian President Keiko Fujimori oversaw the dispatch of the first shipment.
We have all seen through the images of the terrible tragedy that has occurred in our sister country, Colombia. We send our full solidarity to the Colombian people, to President Abelardo de la Espriella and his government. But in addition to this solidarity, we have decided, together with the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, to send this first consignment of 12.5 tons of humanitarian aid.
Well, the aid includes food, tents, warm clothing, and much more. Fujimori said Peru will send a second shipment to further support emergency relief efforts in Colombia. The earthquake that hit Colombia Monday was the 10th one stronger than magnitude 7 globally this year. It follows the devastating twin earthquakes that hit Venezuela in June. Coordinator Freddy Tovar with the Colombian National Seismological Network says the same type of geological forces caused those quakes, but they happened on different fault lines.
Both Venezuela and Colombia are seismically active countries where earthquake activity is driven by the interaction of tectonic plates. In the case of the earthquake that struck Venezuela on June 24th, it was caused by the interaction between the Caribbean plate and the South American plate. However, the strong earthquake in Colombia involved the Nazca plate and the South American plate. The geological settings of the two events are distinctly different. Although both earthquakes were indeed triggered by tectonic plate interactions, the specific plates involved are not the same, and the manner in which they interacted also differs. To be precise, we cannot say that the earthquake in Venezuela triggered the recent strong quake in Colombia. The two earthquakes are not directly connected. This major earthquake is indeed one of the highest magnitude quakes ever recorded in Colombia. In terms of the damage it has caused, it was not only exceptionally powerful in magnitude, but it also affected communities across the entire country. This brings us to the concept of site effects. That is why in certain areas far from the epicenter, people experienced unusually strong shaking, much stronger than one would normally expect at such distances. It all depends on site effects and the specific geological conditions of each location. This involves not only soil composition and geological structure, but also the types of buildings and infrastructure present in the area. All these factors can cause the destructive power and perceived intensity of an earthquake to be significantly amplified in some regions, even surpassing the level of shaking felt near the epicenter.
That was Freddy Tovar, a coordinator with the Colombian National Seismological Network. Coming up, heavy rainfall warnings continue across many parts of China.
Do you have a story about China? We want to hear from you. Maybe China has become your second home. Maybe it has brought you new friendships, creative partnerships, or a new path in life. We are inviting people from the U.S. to share their real stories and experiences with China. No expertise needed, just your authentic voice. Your story could be featured in our Hello from the Other Shore podcast coming this September. Share your name, city, and story with us. Email us at radio@cgtn.com.
10 minutes past the hour. Many parts of China are on alert for heavy rainfall as Typhoon Dolphin continues to move inland. Provinces like Henan, Shandong, and Jiangsu are seeing heavy to torrential rainfall from Wednesday to Thursday morning. Hebei has activated a flood control emergency response in mountainous areas, relocating residents to safe areas with daily necessities fully stocked. In Beijing, local authorities have issued the highest alert for heavy rainfall across several districts. Subway lines and stations have prepared flood control supplies and adjusted service capacity to enhance passenger flow. Over 300 tourist attractions and camping centers have closed. Residents in mountainous villages and other high-risk areas across the Chinese capital have also relocated. Zhou Yixin visited a mountainous village in Fengshan district and spoke to the residents and flood control officials to see how evacuations were carried out.
In Beijing, particular attention has been given to residents in the northern and western mountainous areas, where the risks of flooding and geological disasters are higher. This village is located in a mountainous area prone to geological disasters. After the emergency response was activated, local officials went door to door to evacuate and relocate residents as a precaution. Preparations had begun well before the rain arrived, with each household's evacuation arrangements already confirmed to a temporary shelter or another safe location. Village workers were able to carry out the relocation efficiently, paying special attention to elderly residents and other vulnerable groups.
It's close to the river, so there is a real risk of flooding. During the worst flood we experienced, 2 rooms of my house were washed away, and a stone wall also collapsed, so it can be quite dangerous staying there.
We were kept well informed. Announcements had been made over the village loudspeaker several days in advance. A village official also came to my home, and the village secretary called me as well.
The swift and orderly evacuation was made possible by extensive planning.
The day before the emergency response was activated, we held a coordination meeting and made detailed arrangements. Villages were asked to confirm evacuation arrangements for every resident and organize the relocation. We also ensured that temporary shelters were fully prepared, with staff on duty to provide essential services.
This shelter is currently accommodating 63 residents relocated from 3 nearby villages. It normally serves as the township's community center. During extreme weather, it becomes what Beijing calls a high-ground shelter. Since 2025, Beijing has established more than 1,000 such shelters on safer elevated ground in mountainous areas, allowing residents to be relocated quickly and safely before possible disaster strikes.
That was Zhou Yixin reporting. Tianjin's raised its flood control emergency response as the remnants of Typhoon Dolphin move northward. The city neighboring Beijing has suffered from urban flooding triggered by heavy rain. Authorities have suspended all passenger vessel operations. In Hubei province, authorities have relocated over 25,000 residents since an emergency response plan was activated on Monday. Transportation along major routes in Shenyang has been restored. Water levels across 125 reservoirs in the city have risen due to heavy rains, and major tourist attractions have temporarily closed. The World Meteorological Organization says July was the second warmest on record as extreme heat, drought, and wildfires affected large parts of the Northern Hemisphere. The WMO says the global average surface air temperature in July was nearly 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial average for 1850 to 1900. The number tied with July of 2024 and was only cooler than July of 2023. Western Europe experienced its hottest June-July period on record, with extreme heat raging into August. Exceptionally low rainfall and soil moisture have been reported in France, Spain, parts of Germany and Britain, as well as areas further east. The dry conditions have taken a heavy toll on ecosystems and agriculture, disrupted transport and energy production, and increased the risk of wildfires. With half of France on an amber heat alert, the country is rethinking ways to keep cool. After a string of brutal heat waves, attitudes are shifting as France faces a new climate reality that many say it's simply not prepared for. Sarah Coates has more from Paris.
For generations, French homes were designed to keep the cold out, not the heat. But this summer, temperatures have soared, with many people saying they simply aren't coping.
It was really intense. I used to live on a third-floor apartment, but I bought the 6th floor just under the zinc roof. I never thought that we would have heat waves as intense and that went for so many days.
Like thousands of people in Paris, Mira lives right under one of the city's iconic zinc rooftops. Despite insulating the apartment, she says it was still unbearably hot during the latest heat wave. Now, she's thinking about something she never thought she would.
I've never considered air conditioning, but I am, for the first time in my life, considering it. I think it's going to be a necessity to stay in this apartment.
For years, French people saw air conditioning as unnecessary, with concerns over their environmental impact, keeping demand low. But after repeated heat waves, climate scientists say that attitude is quickly changing.
One has to say that for years, those units were not considered as necessary in France. That was a kind of superfluous luxury equipment that you would use 2-3 days a year.
But experts believe air conditioning alone isn't the answer. These kind of temperatures were once considered exceptional, but now they're becoming a regular feature of French summers, forcing the country to rethink not just how it responds to heat waves, but how it prepares for them. Adapting to rising temperatures will require much broader changes, from the way homes are renovated to how entire cities are designed.
Regarding the buildings, regarding the city itself, we will need to have more trees, we will need to have more public swimming pools as well. Some of the work schedules will need to be adapted. And potentially, one can even ask, is it a good idea to have end of the year exam in the month of June in school, which is one of the hottest months of the year?
But making those changes will take time and money.
The economy, the city, was conceived for a climate that no longer exists, and which means that a lot of things will need considerable investment. And the difficulty, obviously, is that the government has no money, the city has no money, and therefore we always run the risk of taking emergency measures, whereas what we need would be long-term measures to adapt.
As France braces for the rest of summer, the challenge now is becoming less about getting through the next heat wave and more about preparing for the ones still to come.
That was Sarah Coates reporting. Severe storms swept across the U.S. Midwest, knocking out power for more than 600,000 customers. In Ohio, more than 270,000 customers lost power. Governor Mike DeWine has reported one death after flooded roads prevented first responders from reaching the person. DeWine warned that dangerous conditions could continue for several hours.
The storm is now in the Dayton area. It's estimated that when the storm comes through your area, it will last about 2 hours. The most dangerous part will be early, but danger can certainly continue. So it's not going to just blow right through. It's going to be something that's going to be with you for at least several hours.
Forecasters said several rounds of rain could cause flooding across the Ohio Valley through early Friday. In nearby Westerville, a local library closed after heavy rain flooded its atrium. Farmers in one of the largest rice-producing states in southern India are mitigating the drought risk amid El Nino. Ravinder Bawa has more.
For generations, Sudarshan and his family have cultivated rice in the southern Indian state of Telangana. This year, he has made a shift from paddy to millet as warnings of low monsoon came early. The government urged farmers to move away from water-intensive rice to short-duration and drought-tolerant varieties.
We attended a government session on sowing crops like millet for better understanding. They explained how it works and how it should be done. We decided to give it a try.
As a part of contingency plan, the government reached out to farmers, informing them about effects of El Nino, the natural Pacific weather pattern that raises global temperatures. The status of reservoir storage and water availability was made public to help farmers make informed decisions.
We are discussing with the scientists.
We are discussing with scientists on which crops are suitable for managing the impacts of El Niño. We are encouraging farmers to sow these crops.
Not just now, but in the coming years, people will shift from rice to millet. They will start cultivating sorghum and pulses. We are also creating awareness.
But for farmers like M. Ganesh, the advice was not enough to make a switch. Unlike paddy, many of the alternative crops do not come with the assured government support price, making it a difficult choice.
If we cultivate green gram, sorghum, or maize, there is no subsidy. So far, the government has not provided us with any support.
The solution is with these tribal women farmers known as seed protectors. Over the years, they have saved about 100 varieties of seeds. In this year of El Nino, they are playing the role of mentor and guides to those farmers who are willing to diversify and grow climate-resistant crops.
I helped about 20 people. I gave them seeds and taught them how to save and protect their seeds.
Since 2023, the government has actively promoted millets as a superfood, driving growing demand for the grains across urban India. Female farmers like these are increasingly turning to millets as a sustainable alternative to water-intensive crops such as rice.
According to the World Food Programme, a powerful El Nino could push nearly about 49 million people across vulnerable regions of the world to food insecurity by next year. The contingency plans rolled out by India are not just to address the farmers' risk of crop losses, but also to ensure India's food security.
That was Ravindra Bhawa reporting. Peruvian chefs have performed an ancient Inca ritual on Peru's Pacific coast, asking the sea to keep fish closer to shore as ocean temperatures rise due to El Nino. The ritual took place at Peru's main port near Lima. Chef Javier Vargas said the ceremony was a way to thank the sea and the earth for providing food.
We are really worried about everything that is already starting to manifest with the coastal El Niño phenomenon, and this could put at serious risk not only the work of all the fishermen, but also the work of farmers.
Vargas said the ceremony follows rituals the Incas performed more than 500 years ago.
The Incas gave thanks to Hakun Yakumama, Mama Kucha, and Pachamama as a way of expressing gratitude to the earth and the sea for all the food they provide us, so that we as chefs can transform it into food and nourish people's souls.
And Peru's Navy says sea temperatures along the coast are now more than 5 degrees Celsius above normal. Coming up, Iran says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. meets its demands.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
At 23 past now, the Iranian Supreme National Security Council says the Strait of Hormuz will stay closed unless Washington meets Tehran's conditions. Secretary Mohsen Rezai says the U.S. must end the war throughout the region, including in Lebanon and Gaza, and must also release Iran's frozen assets. He laid out the conditions one day after U.S. President Donald Trump demanded that Iran pay compensation for 50 years of damage to Americans. Despite the deadlock, Pakistan has expressed hope for peace. The defense minister of the mediating country says the U.S. and Iran might be closing in on a deal with the potential reopening of the strait. The interior minister is in Tehran for talks. Saper Saremi has more from the Iranian capital.
At first, President Donald Trump said 2 words: unconditional surrender. But now he is asking for negotiations. He wants to negotiate with Iran. But about the atmosphere, about the mood here on the ground, I have to tell you, because I attended Foreign Ministry press briefing. So the spokesperson Esbay Baghai said that Iranian diplomats right now are laser focused on negotiations with Oman to determine shipping route for the ships that want to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. He said that actually right now there are no negotiations with the U.S. and there's just an exchange of messages through intermediaries. So for now, there are no negotiations between Iran and the U.S., and Iran is involved in high-intensity negotiations just with the Omani delegation, with the Omani diplomats, to find a way to resolve the problem in the Strait of Hormuz. But as you know, the situation is highly, highly charged. Every night we see that ships are being hit, targeted and damaged in the Persian Gulf region.
That was Saper Saremi reporting. Yemen says 4 crew members have died in an attack by the Houthis on a cargo ship in the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. 2 Yemeni rescuers have also been killed. The deaths are the first in a Houthi strike on shipping since the Iran war began. The Houthis say they're willing to maintain dialogue with Saudi Arabia, but will continue attacking Saudi-backed vessels and military targets unless its demands are met. The U.S. has launched a separate attack targeting a Panama flag container ship while it was sailing in the Gulf of Oman toward an Iranian port. Washington says the ship ignored repeated warnings to stop violating the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports. Shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz and attacks on energy infrastructure have forced regional producers to cut oil production. The U.S. Energy Information Administration predicts that some Middle East oil output will stay shut through the end of next year. The U.S. Department of Energy says around 5.5 million barrels per day of oil output was choked off in July. That's over 5% of global consumption. This year's Brent crude oil prices may average over $86 a barrel. The agency also predicts that output will be cut by around 600,000 barrels per day throughout the end of 2027, even if trade patterns return to normal by early next year. The Trump administration's turn to its emergency stockpile of oil to ease the pressure on energy supplies caused by the U.S. war against Iran. Jim Spellman reports from Washington, D.C.
There were about 415 million barrels of oil in the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve when President Trump began attacking Iran back in February. There are now fewer than 300 million barrels as the ongoing conflict continues to put stress on global oil supplies. In March, President Trump ordered the release of 172 million barrels from the reserve, hoping increased supplies would lower gas prices. Before the war, Brent crude was trading at about $70 a barrel. It has since peaked at well over $100 several times and has been trading between $80 and $90 a barrel in recent weeks. Elevated oil has driven up gas prices, rippling through the larger U.S. economy, creating a political liability for Republicans heading into congressional midterm elections. Trump says the pain is temporary.
As soon as this situation ends with Iran, oil is going to go down to the floor. Gasoline is going to go down. We may have to send it up again. We may have to, you know what happens when we send it up, but we hope we don't have to. But when that oil and gasoline go down, everything else follows.
But some experts warn that even if the war ends, the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened and oil prices fall, it could take months for the price at the pump to come down, meaning U.S. voters may still be feeling the pinch as they head to the polls in November. When the current release is complete, the U.S. Strategic Petroleum Reserve will contain less than 250 million barrels. The minimum amount of oil required by the reserve is about 70 million.
That was Jim Spellman reporting. Police in Kansas are investigating the deaths of 6 people, including 4 children, in a suspected family killing. Police Chief Robbie DeLong says officers received a call from a man who said he'd killed his family and was preparing to kill himself.
Obviously, this is a very tragic day in our community. At approximately 8:50 a.m., our officers received a 911 call from a male individual who stated that he had killed his entire family and he was getting ready to kill himself. Fortunately, officers were in the area working another incident and responded pretty much immediately. First officer on scene was approaching the house when they heard a single gunshot.
Police later entered the home and found all 6 people dead. The Kansas Bureau of Investigation is assisting with the case. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing is expecting heavy rainfall tonight. It'll ease to thunder showers by tomorrow. The low's 22. It's up to 29 on Thursday. Shanghai will see moderate rain tonight, easing to light tomorrow. A low of 26 and a high of 28. Chongqing's overcast tonight and tomorrow. A low of 25 or a low of 28, a high of 38 degrees. Nanchang will be cloudy this evening with thunder showers rolling in tomorrow. A low of 26 and a high of 31. Laos is getting a light rainfall tonight, becoming showers tomorrow. A low of 13. The high is 25 degrees. Now, elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be cloudy tonight. A light rain tomorrow. A low of 27. A high of 36. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, Colombia has declared a national state of disaster following the deadly earthquake this week. Many parts of China remain on alert for heavy rainfall as the remnants of Typhoon Dolphin head inland. And Iran says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until the U.S. meets Tehran's demands. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
The transition to a greener future is no longer a distant goal. It's happening now. In power plants, factories, farms, and cities across China. As the world grapples with climate change, energy security, and the growing demand for electricity, China is searching for new ways to cut emissions while keeping its economy moving. Across the country, our reporters visit renewable energy hubs, industrial centers, and agricultural communities to see what that transformation looks like in practice. Through first-hand stories and on-the-ground reporting, we explore the opportunities, the challenges, and the ideas shaping China's green transition. Listen to China's Green Code, Rewriting the Rules of Growth, a special series from Climate Watch, available wherever you get your podcasts.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Wednesday. Still to come. In business, China's auto exports surpassed 1 million for a second straight month. In sports, a preview of the UEFA Super Cup in Austria. In culture and entertainment, international youth exchanges in Hainan province. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. You're also welcome to subscribe to our Substack newsletter Beyond Beijing for the world's biggest stories, along with sharp insights and exclusive analysis. But first, with a check of the day's headlines, here's Tianlu.
Thank you, Shane. Former Chinese Premier Zhu Rongji has died at the age of 98. Zhu served as the Chinese Premier from 1998 to 2003. China has rejected a U.S.-led joint statement on ballistic missile launch notifications at the Conference on Disarmament in Geneva. The statement said recent missile testing activity in the Pacific area did not follow standard practices. Li Chijian is the Chinese ambassador for disarmament affairs. He slammed the accusations, saying they are baseless and against China's goodwill gesture of providing advance notification of the tests. He urged the U.S. to reflect on its own policies and take more actions that genuinely contribute to global peace and stability. China has been using its Fengyun satellites to track Typhoon Dolphin and provide critical data support for meteorological authorities. Fengyun 4C is the world's most powerful single geostationary satellite for atmospheric sounding. It offers wide coverage, high frequency, and continuous observation capabilities. As the typhoon edged closer to China's coast, Fengyun 4B adopted a more favorable viewing angle to focus on offshore waters. Low-orbit satellites also probed Dolphin's internal structure. Vessels sailing near Indonesia's Lombok Island have rescued 112 people after a passenger ferry caught fire. An official told local media that the manifest shows that the ferry was carrying 114 passengers and 17 crew members. The ship was sailing from Bali to Lombok when the fire broke out on Wednesday morning. The U.S. Energy Information Administration predicts that some Middle East oil output will stay shut through the end of next year as shipping disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz and attacks on the energy infrastructure force regional producers to cut production. The U.S. Department of Energy says around 5.5 million barrels of oil were choked back daily in July. That represents over 5% of global consumption. This year's Brent crude oil prices are expected to average more than $86 per barrel. The agency also predicts output will be cut by 600,000 barrels a day through the end of next year, even if trade patterns return to normal by early 2027. Severe storms swept across the U.S. Midwest, knocking out power for more than 600,000 customers. In the Chicago area and northwestern Indiana, strong winds and thunderstorms forced major airports to temporarily halt all flights. Resident Carrie Hurricane said she and her colleagues took shelter when the storm hit.
It just went really dark, and the sirens were going off, the phones were all going off, lights were going on and off in the office. We only had about 5 of us in the office, but everyone took shelter. They took it seriously.
The storm badly damaged the Hurricane's home, tearing off its roof.
Tinley Park seems to have had so many storms this year. We're always talking about it. We've never been hit so bad. I mean, you hear about, but never so bad. There's always, every other week, there's trees down everywhere and just really bad.
In Ohio, more than 270,000 customers also lost power. Officials reported at least 1 death. Hungary's parliament has elected former Supreme Court Chief András Baka as the country's new president. The 73-year-old is the sole candidate in the election who received 140 votes in the secret ballot. He was nominated by the ruling party, which holds the 2/3 parliamentary majority. Baka will officially take office on August 19th.
Now, that was Tian Liu with headlines. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in business, China's auto exports surpassed 1 million for a second straight month.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
36 past the hour, and with business now, here's Tian Yu.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Wednesday. The Shanghai Composite was up around 0.3%. The Shenzhen Component gained nearly 1.1%. Telecommunications equipment and non-metallic material shares led the gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index lost over 0.8%. Japan's Nikkei rose more than 0.8%. China's auto exports continued strong growth momentum in July, surpassing 1 million units for a second month. According to the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, the auto export volume last month was up more than 81% on a yearly basis and 0.6% from a month earlier. New energy vehicle exports reached 553,000 units, up 5.7% from June and soaring 145.5% compared to the same period last year. NEVs have accounted for more than 50% of total auto exports for 2 months. The association attributed the sustained growth in auto exports to the country's most complete automotive supply chain in the world. It says from lithium mining and processing to battery manufacturing and final vehicle assembly, China's supply chain is capable, cost-effective, and resilient against disruptions. The association also says intelligent software in the country's auto industry has created a core competitive advantage. Features such as autonomous driving and smart cockpit interactions can be iterated and upgraded rapidly, precisely meeting the demands of overseas consumers. China's inbound tourism has continued to rise this year, fueled by the expanded visa-free policy and tax refund perks. In the first half of the year, the country recorded nearly 23 million foreign visitor arrivals, up over 20% on a yearly basis. Visa-free entries accounted for almost 78% of the total. The growing interest in China also fueled a shopping boom. Customs data from Beijing shows a surge in tourist spending. The city's 2 international airports processed over 131,000 tax refund applications in the first 7 months, a staggering 516% jump. A growing number of foreign tourists choose to head away from the bustle of China's well-known megacities and journey into its rural heartlands. Many are taking the chance to sample tasty local delicacies and enjoy the scenic landscapes of Guilin. Surrounded by iconic karst peaks, the stunning mountain scenery around the southern city offers the perfect summer escape.
I really enjoy it. The air's very fresh, it's very clean. I like the city itself. It seems quite livable.
This is such a nice delicacy I think we've had here. It's might be my favourite one yet.
After the daytime adventures, the tourists are keen to seek out local flavors at a bustling night food market back in the city. Guangxi's famous tangy sour rice noodle specialty is one of the must-eats and has made a big impression on these travelers. China has been welcoming a steady stream of visitors through the summer. The country already recorded a more than 20% rise in international visitor arrivals in the first half of the year, with visa-free entries accounting for nearly 78% of the total. China is becoming one of the world's biggest sources of new medicines. In the first half of this year, Chinese companies signed 8 of the world's 10 biggest out-licensing deals worth a record $110 billion. They are doing it despite growing U.S. scrutiny over Chinese clinical data. Huang Fei explains.
Just a decade ago, China was largely importing innovative medicines. Today, it's exporting them. By June, Chinese companies have signed more than 80 out-licensing deals with overseas partners. The medicines target a wide range of diseases, from cancer and obesity to autoimmune and neurological disorders. The biggest deal so far is an $18.5 billion licensing agreement between SPC Pharmaceutical and AstraZeneca.
China's drug regulatory reform in 2015 was a turning point. It cut the time and cost needed to bring innovative medicines to market. China's research capabilities have also advanced rapidly. We've built one of the world's most complete pharmaceutical R&D ecosystems. New financing channels have also allowed pre-revenue biotech startups to thrive. Reform opened the floodgates. Talent, capital, and innovation turned it into a wave.
Developing the same drug in China typically costs 30 to 50% less than in Europe or the US. According to Pfizer, clinical development in China can move 3 times faster at roughly half the cost. And speed matters. US drug makers are rebuilding their pipelines as patents on $200 billion worth of medicines expire by the end of the decade. China offers high-quality drug candidates at a lower cost.
What China does well is find mistakes faster. We test multiple drug candidates in parallel, validate results quickly, and stop unsuccessful projects early. We also have a large patient pool, so clinical recruitment often takes about a year, compared with 2 or 3 years in Europe or the United States.
And now, artificial intelligence could accelerate that advantage even further. But can AI discover new medicines? Or is it simply helping scientists work faster?
AI is a great student. It can find new compounds for known targets. But discovering new targets still requires more effort. Some of our methods don't fit neatly into Western medicine. We should be open to a new language or new ways of approving drugs. It's not about competing with the existing system. We share one goal: treating disease.
Guangdong-based Kesso became the first Chinese pharmaceutical company to outperform the world's best-selling cancer drug in a head-to-head clinical trial. For many in the industry, that was proof Chinese innovation could compete at the highest level. The next challenge is developing truly first-in-class medicines.
There's still a gap in original target discovery and breakthrough science. The next step is to better connect universities, hospitals, and biotech companies so discoveries move faster from the lab to patients. Traditional Chinese medicine and natural products will also remain an important source of future drug discovery.
Cross-border licensing deals continue to accelerate, shifting increasingly toward early-stage drug development. That suggests growing confidence in China's research capabilities, not just its product. And as partnerships deepen, the next breakthrough medicine may not just be made in China. It could be discovered here, too.
And that was Huang Fei reporting. Air China has included the domestically developed C919 on its daily Beijing-Ulaanbaatar service, marking the narrow-body jet's debut on a scheduled international passenger route. The plane departed Beijing Capital International Airport at 3 p.m. Wednesday and arrived in the Mongolian capital at 5:15 p.m. The return flight is on the same day. The service has taken the C919 beyond the domestic network, where it has accumulated most of its commercial experience since entering service in 2023. The aircraft previously participated in overseas air shows and conducted demonstration flights. In 2024, it toured Vietnam, Malaysia, and Indonesia to test its compatibility with airports, ground equipment, and flight procedures. So far, C919 aircraft operated by Air China, China Eastern, and China Southern have served 57 routes, connecting 25 cities, safely carrying more than 7.5 million passengers. Zhejiang province has long had a vibrant private sector economy and a business environment. Now it's putting that market-driven approach to working next-generation technology, helping to turn lab innovations into real-world products. Wang Tianyu has details.
Here I am at the Embodied Intelligence Center in Hangzhou, where humanoid robots and robotic arms are all around. This is how Zhejiang province races ahead in next-generation tech, bringing AI from digital screen to the physical world.
At this exhibition center, different companies are showcasing how these human-like machines are being tested and adapted for real-world scenarios. For many entrepreneurs, finding the right application is just as important as developing the technology itself. So how can innovation move beyond the laboratory and become real products? In Zhejiang, the answer lies in the close connection between technology developers and the market. Shining 3D is a Hangzhou-based company specializing in 3D scanning. After more than 20 years of development, its technology is now used in manufacturing, healthcare, and many other high-tech industries.
Sometimes you get a new technology, and you spend a lot of effort just figuring out where it fits. And even when the concept is brilliant, it often just doesn't connect in practice. That gap keeps showing up as we develop.
The company says it is entering a faster growth phase these years because the broader innovation environment has improved. Lower costs in computing, storage, and hardware are helping advanced technologies become more accessible and easier to commercialize. For some companies, Zhejiang's business environment is helping turn the province into a destination for expansion. Letri is a company providing semiconductor process equipment solutions. It has moved part of its operation from Shanghai to Shaoxing in Zhejiang.
We received government support throughout the entire process, from registration in April 2025 to mass production in January 2026. Their assistance with every procedure helped us efficiently relocate production from Shanghai to Shaoxing and expand our manufacturing capacity.
This is also why Zhejiang has become a magnet for technology companies and talent. Here, innovation is not only driven by scientific breakthroughs, but also by market demand, creating a cycle where technology can be tested, improved, and scaled.
And that was Wang Tianyu reporting.
All right, thank you very much. That was Tianyu with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, and coming up in sports, we have a preview of the UEFA Super Cup in Austria.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past the hour. Turning to sports, and here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In football, Europa League champions Aston Villa will face Champions League winners Paris Saint-Germain in the UEFA Super Cup in Austria. Villa ended a 30-year trophy drought by beating Freiburg in May, but they've seen several key players depart, including Yuri Tielemans and Lucas Digne, who is now with PSG. Injuries have ruled out Amadou Onana and new signing Joan Manzambi, while Ezri Konsa, Oli Watkins and Emiliano Martinez are getting extra rest. New arrivals Alejandro Garnacho, Raul Gomez and Modou Kaka Cisse trained on Tuesday. Manager Unai Emery seeking his first Super Cup title after 3 previous failed attempts.
Since I arrived here 4 years more or less, of course, I am so happy how we are responding, how the players are responding, how the club, how the supporters, how we are building everything, how we are trying to develop, getting better all the things we can have. Of course, everything at the end is on the pitch. The result, the consequences after everything we are doing, and everything I learned with the players, we are here playing the Super Cup final because we have won the Europe League. I am feeling comfortable, happy, very demanding, even more than the last years.
Paris Saint-Germain aims to become just the second team in the modern era to retain the UEFA Super Cup, following Real Madrid's 2017 feat. The French champions beat Tottenham on penalties last year to lift the trophy. 15 of Luis Enrique's squad played in last month's World Cup, including winner Fabien Ruiz and the 5 France squad members. PSG recently signed attacking midfielder Magnus Aglikuche from Monaco, while Kvicha Kvaratskhelia has had a full pre-season. Enrique is full of confidence.
Of course it is. We set out ambitious objectives and we continue to do so. In this moment, it is a different scenario because everybody thinks we can win once again. This is a theory and we need to show our level on the pitch. Of course, we are looking to win this match. If we look back in history, it is difficult to find a team who wins all the time, but that is what we are aiming for.
In their only prior meetings, PSG edged Villa 5-4 on aggregate in a thrilling 2025 Champions League quarter-final, surviving a late fight back from the English side. In Perth, Juventus has wrapped up their pre-season tour with a 2-0 win over fellow Italian side Palermo. The breakthrough came just before half-time when Zeki Zelik's rebound set up Kenan Yildiz for the finish. Randall Kolo Muani led the attack in the second half, but couldn't convert. Akudias Milik had a goal ruled out for offside in the 84th minute, but 2 minutes later, the Polish striker sealed the victory. Juventus will open their Serie A campaign against Frosinone on August 23rd. Turning to tennis, defending champion Ben Shelton is into the Canadian Open semi-finals after a dominant 6-3, 6-1 win over Jacob Manzik in Montreal. The American said he was super happy with his performance.
Yeah, it felt great. To be honest, I was really happy with my return game. The way that I played from the ground from point one, for me, is where I want to be at. I think that the level that I maintained throughout the match was really high, and if I was nitpicky at all, it's just the way that I served at the end. I kind of lost the rhythm on my first serve, but I'm super happy with the way that I played tonight, the performance that I came up with, and yeah, hope to continue to build on these things in the semis.
Shelton will next take on Lina Tian for a place in the final. Tian knocked out Merida Aguilar in straight sets 6-3, 6-2. Rafael Hodar has also progressed in the last 4. The 19-year-old defeated Arthur Fils in straight sets to reach his first ever Masters 1000 semi-finals at the Canadian Open. Now in Toronto, second seed Elena Rybakina rallied from a set and the breakdown to beat Naomi Osaka in their first tour level meeting, reaching the National Bank Open semi-finals. Osaka took the opener 6-4, but Rybakina fought back to win the second set tiebreak 7-5. Rybakina then sealed the decider 6-4 with an ace, advancing to her 14th WTA 1000 semi-final and 3rd this season. The reigning Australian Open champion will next face Coco Gauff, who advanced after Belinda Bencic withdrew with an injury. And finally, China has appointed Olympic champion Wu Dajin as head coach of the national short track speed skating team. The 32-year-old made history as the first Chinese man to win Olympic gold in the sport, taking the 500-meter title at Pyeongchang 2018. He later added a relay gold at the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics. His appointment follows a public selection process launched in July as China prepares for the 2030 Winter Olympics. Wu takes over after China earned just 1 silver medal in short track in Milano Cortina this year, marking its first Winter Games without a gold in the discipline since 2002.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports, and you're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, international youth exchanges in Hainan province.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
53 past and turning to culture and entertainment. Hainan province has been buzzing with international youth exchanges, from cultural activities and sports competitions to medical training and sci-tech exploration. Young people from the United States, France, Italy, and other countries have been visiting the island one after another. Lin Wall reports.
Recently, the U.S. Pennsylvania intercollegiate soccer team played a friendly match against the Haikou International Talents football team. Just one snapshot of the international youth exchange boom sweeping Hainan this summer. In early July, the youth delegation from Washington State embarked on an in-depth experience tour of the Hainan Free Trade Port. During their stay, they immersed themselves in Li and Miao ethnic culture and learned batik techniques.
This folk experience is amazing. I love this game so much. It was actually super fun. And getting to play the wax, paint with the wax, it was very difficult, but it was super fun to do.
In mid-July, 30 medical students from 4 French universities began a 2-week clinical training program at Bois-le-Cheng International Medical Tourism Pilot Zone, combining clinical teaching, hands-on practice, and themed lectures. The program gave them a first-hand look at how Chinese hospitals operate and deliver care.
China is leading the way in many areas, and Bois-le-Cheng as a new medical pilot zone really shows where the future is heading. I want to take what I learned here back to France.
In late July, the 2026 China-U.S. Sister Cities Youth Exchange between Hainan and Hawaii kicked off at Hainan Overseas Chinese Middle School. Around the same time, the U.S. Flying Tigers Friendship Association brought nearly 40 university student representatives to visit Hainan.
We explored a museum and we got to look into the technology and how China traveled all the way across space from Earth and make it across the galaxy and explore the moon. I think it was very insightful. I hope I can gain a lot of friendships and cultural experience.
This year, Hainan boasts China's most open visa-free policy. Ordinary passport holders from 86 countries can enter the island without a visa, drawing a much broader mix of international visitors. For young people around the world, it means an open door to explore Hainan and experience China up close. And what they take back home is a true and vibrant picture of China.
That was Lin Bot reporting. A youth rhythmic gymnastics exchange has taken place at Shougang Park in Beijing, bringing together Chinese gymnasts and their peers from Oregon. The event opened with a joint training session covering posture and apparatus skills, followed by performances that showcase Eastern rhythm and expressive choreography. American gymnasts said they enjoyed sharing their love for the sport with their Chinese counterparts. Beyond athletics, the U.S. delegation experienced traditional Chinese culture through a Shaolin boxing demonstration and even practiced kung fu moves. They also toured the Yongding River Market and the iconic Big Air Shougang ski jumping platform, impressed by the area's transformation from a former steel mill into a cultural hub. An exhibition of Chinese ink paintings and sculptures is opened at a museum on the Greek island of Aegina. The show is titled Remote Mountains and Rivers, Spiritual Homeland. It features works by 11 Chinese artists and aims to explore the depth of Chinese culture while creating a dialogue between East and West. 7 of the pieces come from the collection of the National Art Museum of China in Beijing. Through reflections on nature and life, the works illustrate a classical Chinese aesthetic principle of perceiving the world's essence through form and spirit. Visitors to the Diachronic Museum of Aegina can immerse themselves in this contemplative world of Eastern art and philosophy. We're at 57 past the hour. Beijing getting heavy rainfall tonight, easing to thunder showers tomorrow. The low's 22, and it's up to 29 on Thursday. Shanghai will see moderate rainfall tonight, easing to light, a low of 26 and a high of 28. Chongqing's overcast tonight and tomorrow, a low of 28, the high is 38. Nanchang will be getting cloudy conditions and thunder showers rolling in tomorrow. A low of 26, the high is 31 degrees. Lhasa will have a light rainfall tonight and showers tomorrow, a low of 13, the high is 25. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be cloudy this evening with a light rain coming in tomorrow, a low of 27, the highs 36 degrees on Thursday. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, Colombia has declared a national state of disaster following the deadly earthquake this week. And many parts of China remain on alert for heavy rainfall as the remnants of Typhoon Dolphin head inland. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
A poem for the Tibetan antelope, the gentle spirit of the Qinghai Seazong Plateau, spoken by voices from across the world. Every spring, female antelopes migrate hundreds of miles to Zhuonai Lake to give birth. as we build gentle passages for their journey.
Hello, little Tibetan antelope. Eyes opening to the light for the very first time.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower.
So much wonder calls for so much courage. But have no fear. The way home is right there, waiting for you.
From the snows of Kunlun to the winds of Tangula, the wilderness will teach me to be strong.
But the call of life itself never ceases.
A train runs toward the horizon. A road stretches through the wilderness.
The bridge that soars through the clouds is no barrier across the land, but a gateway to where I truly belong.
Tibetan antelope's hoofprints loosen the soil, letting snow melt sink into the earth.
Human presence passes through,
but we've never walked this land alone.